topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, Houston. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. We have one of our long-standing experts, the Dean Law Firm, with us for the next 25 minutes, and then we'll have another great expert after that. Thank you again for all your emails, your letters. We're so glad that you enjoy the show, and what we try to do here is we try to educate you. This is not a commercial. This is an educational program in so many different areas, and today we're doing estate planning, and we have now one of our favorites now from the Dean Law Firm, attorney Calla Sprague. Hey, Calla.
Hi, how are you today?
Does everybody tell you how much they love your name?
Yeah, well, it's actually my grandmother's favorite flower, the calla lily, and my mom wanted to name me Calla Lily Foley, and my dad just said that was too many words, so it just got me Calla. He said, well, really what he said is I'd probably get made fun of for having too long of a name, so it just is Calla. But yeah, I love it. I really am.
Such a cool name. Well, let's start off. We always are picking up new listeners every week. Tell people about the Dean Law Firm and tell them about your background.
Sure. So the Dean Law Firm has been here for about 20 years. We have 3 attorneys. So we have Julia Dean, who is the namesake of the firm. She's been practicing for about 37 years. We have a senior associate named Jonathan Sterneman, who has been practicing for about 12 years, doing strictly estate planning, but he has a little bit of oil and gas background, which, as we know, as Texans, very important in the state of Texas.
Yes.
And then we have myself. I've been practicing for 8 years, all in estate planning and probate. My lens is sort of estate and gift tax and how we can avoid and help with those kinds of things. And then Julia kind of does it all. So we've got 3 attorneys with a little bit different experiences, but all have always been in estate planning, which I think is really important when you're choosing an estate planning attorney, is that their specialty really is estate planning. And so that is the Dean Law Firm. And like I said, Julia's been here doing this for about 37 years. So she's got more knowledge than all of us combined. And she's a great mentor. And, you know, we're a really close-knit team over here. So
what made you decide to go into estate planning?
That's actually like my favorite question, because I feel like I have a really good answer in it. And I really wanted to help people. When I got out of law school, I thought I'm going to make the world a better place. And I think a lot of lawyers, when they get out of law school, feel like that. And then the real world crushes them a little bit and they realize, you know, I got to do what I got to do. But with estate planning, it's so interesting because it's my client's life work, whatever it is, whether it's their kids, whether it's their money, whether it's their pets, whether it's whatever it is. In my opinion, you come to me and you say, hey, Calla, I want to protect this. And I have to find a way to protect it. And I love to get to know people. I love to get to know my clients. I like to follow up with my clients years later. How are the kids? You know, you need anything? Because I think in this world, in the estate planning world, it's interesting because we truly get to know our clients on a personal level. Because again, like I said, it's so much information. It's who are your children? What are their needs? What are you worried about? What's this child's maybe issue? What's this? Maybe your kids are perfect and that's a different issue on its own. And so I think it's really neat to get to talk to people. And actually, when I was in law school, I really wanted to do just tax law. I love the numbers. And then I quickly found out there's no people in tax law, and you're just sitting there reading the IRS code all day long. It just wasn't my calling. I love my clients. And I think that here at the Dean Law Firm, I know my sentiment is echoed with Julia and Jonathan as well, that we feel this is the area of law for us because we really can get to the nitty gritty with our clients and get to know them and help them. And all of us, every single one of us, it's so important that we help our client in the way they want to be helped. And I think so often when people come to attorneys, they expect cold shoulder and unapproachable. And we try so hard not to be cold lawyers, because and I'm not saying anything wrong with people who are. It's just those lawyers, maybe not for estate planning. And we just try to be welcoming. Also in probate, you have to have a lot of compassion. I mean, you've lost somebody special to you, and there's grieving that needs to go on. And I personally think this is my strongest skill set, is being with people and trying to get to know them and understanding them. And so I chose this area of the law because I felt like I could shine a little bit in it.
You've got the perfect mentor with Julia. I've been working with her for 3 years, and she has such a great heart for people. She really cares about them. We got a question before the show.
Okay.
I hope this doesn't put a damper on the show, but someone said, what do you recommend? How do you keep from the infighting when you appoint someone power of attorney?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. A lot of times it depends on the situation. And I hate to give the lawyer answer, but it depends. But most of my clients, what I tell them is usually what the fighting occurs because you've chosen one child or one niece over the other one. And the other one then feels, some
left out
because of that. And so what I say is, number one, blame me. Tell him the lawyer told you had to. That's my favorite answer. I'll be your bad guy. I don't mind. The other is being honest with them. If you feel like you can be honest with them, tell your younger child, hey, I picked your sibling because they're older, or I picked your sibling because they work in finance, or they're better with money, but then I picked you on my medical power of attorney because I know you're more compassionate. And that's in a conversation kind of that you need to have with your estate planning attorney, is tell them what your kids' strengths and weaknesses are. And hopefully we can find a plan that works all your kids in a way that makes them not feel excluded. Or if they're the type of kid who, for whatever reason, needs to be excluded from some of these things, some of these positions of power, there are children out there that are just not going to handle that. That's where you can blame me. That's where I can help you have a conversation with those children and explain why their set of skills might not make them the best power of attorney or make them the best executor. I think honesty is key if you can. There are always circumstances, though, where you just can't be honest with your kids because they're going to maybe dislike you even more. And then that's where you can blame me, or we can talk about a lot of other options and figure out why you don't want them to be your power of attorney and such.
We, for some reason on your show, we get a lot of, everybody sends us the emails, and I never understood that, but we're glad that they do. They take the time to write. We get a lot of elder law questions for your show, and I just wanted to tell people that long-term care is very important, and it's getting more and more expensive. How do you work in long-term care with your clients?
So the biggest way is to buy the best thing to do for your long-term care is to, if you can, at the right time, get a long-term care policy if you know that's going to be an issue. Now, as we age, those become increasingly harder to get and much more expensive. So there are conversations that you can have with your attorney, thinking through the lens of how do I qualify for Medicaid and stuff. Now, Medicaid is an interesting part of the law because it's different every single state. And I stress that because when you're doing, clients always Google right before they come to us and they say, well, I saw this, this, and this on the internet. those might be the Florida rules. Those might be the Louisiana rules. Texas has its own set of rules, and that's where you can come in, and there are things we can do to plan for your future when it comes to long-term care, whether it be Medicare, or Medicaid, whether it be qualifying for other government or subsidies and stuff. So those are so fact-based to what your potential or what your situation is, but there are ways around it. But if you're at an age where you can afford long-term care policies, that's the best. But if you're past that point, and you realize most clients don't think about these things until they say, hey, I need it now. And we can do some of that crisis planning as well through different types of trusts and things like that. But that's the policy is the best way, but we can do it after the words in a crisis planning situation.
I think it's so important to have a firm, and your firm strictly just does estate planning.
Yes.
So it's so important that, because I work with different types of firms all over the country, and when a firm like yours, like the Dean Law Firm, really just puts all their concentration into estate planning, I got to tell people that is the firm that you want to represent you. That is so important. You see these firms that have their shingle says we do personal injury, criminal law, bankruptcy law, estate planning. You want a firm that concentrates in one area. Isn't that correct?
I agree with that. I agree with that on all levels of the law, though, not just estate planning. If you've got a divorce, you need to see a divorce attorney. If you need an estate plan, you need to see an estate planning attorney, because what they have that person that does everything doesn't have is the expertise. And I'm not saying those people that do everything don't do a bang up job. I bet they do, but they don't always see as much as a estate planning sees, because this is all I see all day long is estate planning and probate. So I feel like even in my short 8 years of practice, I've seen more estate planning and probate than if I would have practiced all areas of the law, because then I would have learned divorce and DUI, and I can't help you with any of that. I always tell my family when they call me for things, I'm not that kind of lawyer. I'm only an estate planning lawyer, because I don't want to practice things I don't know. And I wouldn't want an attorney practicing for me things that they aren't really comfortable with. So, and that comes up a lot in our practice is, hey, I'm selling this house now. Are you a realist? Can you help me? Are you a real estate attorney? No, I'm not, but I'll find you one and I'll help you however I can with all of that. And I'll give you the advice that I can. But at the end of the day, it is better than to go get a real estate attorney for that. And that's true of estate planning. Don't go to your real estate attorney to ask them to write you a will, because they'll do their best. I know they will, but they haven't seen as much, and they just don't know always what questions to ask or to think outside of a box of just, this is where my stuff goes. Because so many people think, oh, will just says, hey, all my stuff goes to my children. And it can say that, but it can say how they're going to get it. It can say at what ages. You can say, well, this kid's really good at finances. They can be okay. They can take their money and be okay. But this kid, not on the right track right now, but might get there. And so those kinds of things, real estate attorneys or divorce attorneys aren't going to be thinking through that same lens, because they just haven't seen it as frequently as we have. We also do probate, which is just the estate plan on the other side, right? So the estate plan once somebody passes away. And I think that helps us a lot, because so we write a will in 2010, and then the person passes away in 2025. They come back to us and we see how our will goes through the probate process, or we see how our trust avoids the probate process. And when we do that, we've now learned so much more, because we see the issues that came up that we want to avoid in the future. And so it's just really important, I think, that you get an attorney that knows what they're doing in the area of law that you need them to be doing it in. It's the same with doctors. I always tell people you wouldn't go to an ear doctor. You wouldn't go to an ear doctor to have your eyes fixed, So it's the same thing. It's just, for whatever reasons, attorneys are cold, like I said, cold and unapproachable. So once you find one you're good with, you think, oh, I'll just have them do everything. Don't do that. Ask them for a referral.
I have this image. You go in to see a bankruptcy attorney, and he's got his bankruptcy hat on, and all of a sudden he goes, well, wait a minute. No, you really need a business attorney. Just a minute. And he bends down, takes off his hat, puts on his business attorney. He said, yes, what can I do to help you? It's true. I just think it's so important I've
I
learned over the years, like the Dean Law Firm does, is you really concentrate in one area of the law. We talk about wills and trusts, and people say, well, everybody knows about a will and trust. You know what? Not everybody does know about wills and trusts.
right.
And we brought this up during the show. Michael Jackson,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Prince didn't even have a will with
No,
all of his advisors.
and all of his
So,
money. You know
yeah,
that
and all
man
of his
had a ton
money.
of money, and yeah, nobody once sat him down, and he had a
So,
team of lawyers around him. So, but that's where he needed an estate
yes,
planning attorney around him to say, "Hey, you can protect yourself," and that's really what it's about. And a will, I think most people have a general concept of what a will is, and their general idea is probably right. It's, hey, where's my stuff go? How am I going to provide for the people I leave behind? But you can do the same thing with a trust. And they're just real basic in Texas, just run down. There's a will, and you've got to go through probate to get it administered. There's a trust that you don't have to go through probate. And it's our goal, and I know we've talked about this on the show as well, but it's our goal here at the Dean Law Firm to try to avoid probate at all costs. It's expensive. It's time consuming. I think it's hard on the heart after you've lost somebody. I think
yeah,
the last thing you want to do is go to court and have to look at a judge that you've never met before and say, you're right, my husband passed away and I have all these children and I don't know what to do with them. There's all this emotion when people pass away that if you can bypass all the administrative work, why not do it? Why not? And when you're setting up your estate plan, what a gift to leave your children. So, most people think I need $1 million to put in this trust. You don't. In fact, trusts can be more beneficial for our lesser well-off clients. I don't know really how to say that without insulting anybody, but our clients with a little less money, a trust goes further for them because now they don't pay for probate when you pass away. Probate's an expensive, time-consuming process. When you take a will to court, you take it to court. They can let the banks and things know now that somebody has passed away. That means that the person who's passed away, their accounts are frozen. Nobody has access to those accounts. Nobody knows where anything's going. And you're waiting on the probate court to get all that done. And bless the probate court, but they don't move as quickly as we want them to, right? I mean, they can't. They've got 1 million
right,
cases
exactly.
in Fort Bend and in Harris County even more. And if you can just avoid that for your family, it's a gift inside of a gift. It really is. It's what I've done for my mom. My mom has a trust. I grew up very modestly. My mom was like, I think this is too much for me to do. Why do I need all this? I said, no, you don't. This is what you need, because when you pass away, it's just my brother and I. We don't have to go through probate. We don't have to fight. We don't have to involve the court. We don't have to do any of that. I said, it's going to flow seamlessly. And she was like, oh, okay. And she got it. It just was an explanation. It was just one of those things. She had a preconceived notion that to have a trust, you've got to have $1 billion. And that's just not true. So
It's that word estate planning. That word gets everybody thinking they have to have millions of dollars, and it's just not true.
And actually,
what kind of documents does a person need to do a will or a trust?
So the will or the trust, I kind of think of as the backbone of your estate plan. So that is the document, whether it's a will or a trust, that's going to control when you pass away. But there are documents that you need during your life as well, like medical power of attorney, a financial power of attorney, a HIPAA, a directive to physicians, and a declaration of guardian. So what those are, financial power of attorney covers things while you're alive, right? So the will and the trust kick in after you've passed away, but your financial power of attorney is someone that could make financial decisions for you if you couldn't. So imagine you're in the doctor, you need to withdraw money because you got to pay your mortgage. You can't do that because you physically cannot go to the bank. With a power of attorney, you can, whether it be your kids, your spouse, your attorney, whoever, your CPA goes, and they can get that done for you. A medical power of attorney is so important. I can't even stress it enough. It's somebody who can decide surgery and whether or not to consent to surgery. And if you've told them your wishes beforehand, of course, well, if you're awake, the doctor will talk to you. But if you're not awake or you can't speak, you need someone to advocate for you and somebody that knows what you would want. You don't want some nurse that doesn't know you deciding if you should have some kind of major surgery. So you can put other people in charge of that during your life. The other documents that we do are or a HIPAA. So your medical information is protected. If I called your doctor right now, Stephen, and said, hey, I know he was in there today. What's he talking about? They tell me, no, you don't have a right to have that information. But they'll tell your children that same thing. So what you need to do is inform your doctors, I want my children to have that access to that information. So those kinds of things. And again, those are kinds of things that sometimes non-estate planning attorneys don't always think of, or don't always think how best to accomplish your goals. Maybe you have two kids who are both nurses. Maybe they should both be your medical power of attorney. Those are things that we can talk about and get into. There's also DNRs. A DNR is, a lot of people ask for a DNR, and I'll tell you, I usually tell most of my clients they're too young for a DNR. A DNR is something that basically says, do not resuscitate. Don't give me any active airway. Don't give me any CPR, nothing like that. But that means you're not even going to get to the doctor. So many clients come in and say, I need a DNR, Cal. And I say, no, you don't. And I'm going to tell you why. And I change their mind about it. What you need is a living will or a directive to physician, which is the situation where you are in some kind of, on some kind of life support, imagine feeding tube, breathing tube, those types of things. But you're telling your loved ones that it's okay to either let you pass naturally, or that you want to be kept alive so you can see what science and medicine and those machines can do to bring you back. And those, although those are conversations you need to have with your estate planning attorney, then you need to turn around and have those conversations with your loved ones so that they know that they're doing what they want to do. As someone who had to unplug their father, not an easy thing, but it was easier because I knew I was honoring what he wanted me to do. I wasn't doing it because selfishly, I wasn't doing it because the medical bills were going to be exorbitant. I did it because I loved him and that's what he would have wanted. So some of those conversations, you can get an idea of how to talk to your people about with an attorney as well.
What do you do if you're, I hate to say this, but what if you're unconscious, say in an auto accident?
Mm-hmm.
How does the hospital know what your wishes are?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. So the 3 documents that I think every person should have and should take to their primary physician in some way, shape, or form is the medical power of attorney. So somebody to make those medical decisions if you are unconscious and you can't do it. The HIPAA authorization, which allows the people that are going to make medical decisions for you to have your medical information up to date. Because we don't want people making medical decisions for us that know nothing about what we've been through and stuff. So it's kind of a group conversation with the doctors of, hey, this is their situation. This has been their situation in the past. This is what we need. There's also then that living will where you talk about what you would want to happen in that situation where you are in some kind of coma or on some kind of life support.
You know, Cal, this show always goes by so fast. I just look, I can't believe we're at the end of the show. Tell people how they can reach your office.
Sure. So we are located in Sugar Land. Our phone number is 281-277-3326. And the email address or the website is juliadeanlaw.com. If you mention this podcast, give you a free consult, come in, talk to us. I promise we're not scary. I really do. I promise I'm the least scary person you'll ever meet. So, and we look forward to helping you.
I got to tell you, Julia has chosen a great person to represent the law firm. You do such a good job. We'll be replaying the show in 2 weeks, and then you'll be back again with us live again next month. Cal Sprague, thank you so much. God bless you. Have a good weekend.
Thanks.
We're going to go a short break. When we come back, we'll have more with Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Experts show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.